Okay. The rites of smicha, waving, bringing close, kamitza, burning, malika, sprinkling, and receiving pertain to men and not to women, except for the meal offering of a sota and a female Nazarite, in which cases they waive them. Every commandment which is dependent on land applies only in the land, and that which is not dependent on land applies both in the land and outside the land, except for Orla and Kalayim. Eliezer says also Kadash.
Interesting. We actually just have this coming up now. Rav Hen was talking this morning about Shemitah, and whereas Shemitah is a mitzvah that's only dependent on the land, whereas at least Shavias, the agricultural laws are something that applies to the land, that only applies in Eretz Yisrael. But there's another halacha of Shemitah, which is Shemitah's Kasafim, or Halvas. When loans get forgiven, that applies around the world. So right. And that's something that's not dependent on the land, but it's all part of the Shemitah. Anyway, carry on.
Whoever fulfills one commandment is benefited.
Did you do Rabbi Eliezer and Kadash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Whoever fulfills one commandment is benefited. His days are prolonged and he inherits the land. And whoever does not fulfill one commandment is not benefited. His days are not prolonged and he does not inherit the land. Whoever is involved in the study of scripture and Mishnah and conducts himself properly will not easily sin. As it is said, the three-ply cord is not easily severed. And whoever is involved neither in the study of scripture nor Mishnah and does not conduct himself properly is not part of civilization.
Okay. Right, very place. Okay, so returning to the subject of Kiddushin, we now talk about using a shaliach for the Kiddushin. Okay, and ha'ish mekadesh bo o bishlucho. So a man can do his Kiddushin either personally or with a shaliach. He can send somebody else to be mekadesh a woman on his behalf. And even though we say that that we have a chumrah, a halacha d'Rabbanan that a man has to see his wife before he's allowed to be mekadesh. You don't want that. You don't want him to come and find out that he didn't realize that she was so ugly. Okay, so but nonetheless, it's effective. It's effective even if he sends a shaliach and he's never seen her before. Similarly, ha'isha miskadeshes ba'u b'shlucha. A woman can receive the Kiddushin personally, or she can send a shaliach to receive it on her behalf. Ha'ish mekadesh is bito. A man may be mekadesh's daughter kashihi nara, only when she's in the age of nara, not when she's a vulgaris. Bo ubishlocho. Either him personally receiving the Kiddushin, or he can send a shaliach to receive the Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter. Okay. If somebody says to a woman, his kadshili bismara zo, his kadshili bazo, so now he's skirting the line of a pruta, of a shabbat pruta, because dates are not that valuable. But you might have a big one that's worth a shabbat pruta, or you have small ones that are not worth a shabbat pruta. Okay, so a man keeps saying to a woman, he says, "Yeah, hurry up mekudeshly with this date," and then he says again, "Hurry up mekudeshly with this date." He keeps trying one by one. If one of them is worth a shabbat pruta, then she is married. Even though he's adding 10, 15, and between the sum of them all, they're all it's more than a shabbat pruta, but because he's repeating the formula with each one, he's attempting to marry her with each one, and if each one is not worth a shabbat pruta, nothing happened. But if he says bazo or bazo or bazo, I wish to be mekadesh with this and this and this, then he can add up the total value of the dates, and if then you see how many dates lead to marriage. Okay,
that's really weird. That's really weird. To think about it, using dates as a way to.
The Mishna is doing this in a hypothetical sense over here, because it's
I hope
extremely
so.
unlikely that any man would attempt to marry a woman with a date.
Mm.
Okay, but what we're trying to establish over here is a principle of, at what point has he given her the correct monetary value that she's now Mekudeshes. People love any Mekudeshes. And so if there wasn't a sum of, in that case, if you're saying Bazor, 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 then you accumulate them. But in this case, if he gives her the date and she straight away eats it, and he gives her another one and she straight away eats it, then you can't accumulate it because once she's already consumed it, you can't add up the value of the dates that she's holding in her lap to say, okay, now we've got a Shava Prita and she's married.
Right.
Yeah, base.
I had a funny thought. If two Hasidim go out on a date, and the girl comes back, and the mother says, "How was your date?" She says, "We're engaged." I mean, just like the only date, the first date. I'm sure that does happen sometimes, but it's the context for that.
Actually, my wife has a cousin who, on their first date, they decided immediately that they were going to get married. They went to a jewelry store straight away to buy a ring, and the jeweler was like so excited about having this young couple come to his ring, and he's asking them questions. They're like, "How long have you been dating?" They said, "No, this is our first date." He chased them out of the store.
Really?
And well, I mean, they're happily married. They had 7 children. There's several, I don't know how many grandchildren.
Did they ever go back to that jewelry store? Oh, that's wild. I don't know if I could handle that. I don't know. Could you handle that? I don't think so.
Definitely not. No. It's actually because they're shel yayin. So a man comes to a woman and says, "Yeah, correct me deliciously with this cup of wine." And it turns out that it's some kind of honey mead, right? It's not wine, it's some other kind of drink. Shel dvash v'nimtza shel yain, or vice versa. He tells her that it's mead and it turns out to be wine. The dinar shel kesef, with a silver dinar, v'nimtza shel zahav, or shel zahav v'nimtza shel kesef. But you see, like this, even if the value is obviously more than what he said, or almanas shani ashir v'nimtza ani, or ani v'nimtza ashir, he misleads her about his financial status. Eina mekudeshes. So even if it's to her benefit, says the Tanakama, even if he's actually giving her more than what he said, it's not a good Kiddushin when she receives it, because he's perhaps the case is that she dafka wants, that she prefers silver to gold. Perhaps the case is that she prefers mead to, or whichever is the more expensive, which perhaps she prefers the cheaper one, and perhaps she doesn't like the social pressure of being married to a rich guy. So this is called misleading. Rabbi Shimon Omer im hit'a l'shrach mekudeshes, but Rabbi Shimon disagrees and says that, well, actually, if he misled her and gave her more than what he said, then it's still mekudeshes, because he says just do the math and it's and that's better. However, Rabbi Shimon only disagrees in the case where the woman sent her shaliach, because he presumes that she says to the shaliach, listen, if you accept, he said he was going to give a dinar of silver. If he gives you I'll accept anything from a dinar of silver for my kiddushin.
Right.
And he gives her a dinar of gold. So there, Rabbi Shimon says she's mekudeshes. But Rabbi Shimon would agree that if it's in person, that he's telling her with this, he's being mekadesh her with this gold, and it turns out to be with silver. Even he agrees that that's not a kiddushin. Halacha follows the Tanakama. Okay, Mishna Gimel. Almanas she'ani kohen v'nimtza Levi. He says it on condition that I'm kohen and really he's a Levi. Levi v'nimtza kohen. Nasin v'nimtza mamzer. Mamzer v'nimtza nasin. He makes a condition that in either case he would be not allowed to marry her, because, or maybe she's a mamzeres, whatever his psul is, but it turns out it's a different psul. Ben ir v'nimtza ben kach v'nimtza ben ir. He says he's a city dweller and really he's from a village, or vice versa. Because my house is close to the merchatz, to the bathhouse, and it turns out that he's far, or he says that it's far, then it turns out that he's close. Bas or shifcha gadelis. I've got a daughter or a shifcha who will do your hair, and he doesn't like say, and it turns out that he doesn't. Or he says no, I don't have, and it turns out that he does. He says I don't have children, and it turns out that he does. Or even if she claims later that she had in mind that even that it didn't really matter to her, it's not a good Kiddushin, because if he put this condition into the Kiddushin, and it turns out that it was false. It's like a Tanai in the Kiddushin. Harriet Mekudeshes the Almanas Shani Ben Ir, and he's not a Siddur, he's a Ben Krach, which means that the condition was not fulfilled. It's not a Kiddushin, even if she was quite okay with the reverse side of the condition. It just wasn't a Kiddushin. He's got to redo it. And similarly, if she accepts the Kiddushin Almanas or any of these things where she misled him about her personal circumstances, the Kiddushin is just invalid. It was all conducted in error, and therefore it never happened. Okay. Getting Ches Zion. Wait, yeah.
Ches Zion. If one married his Yivama, and her co-wife went and was married to another, and it was discovered that this one is an aloneness, she must leave both of them, and all of these procedures apply to her. If a scribe wrote a get for a man and a receipt for a woman, and he erred and gave the get to the woman and the receipt to the man, and then gave them one to another, and afterwards the get was found in the hand of the man and the receipt in the hand of the woman, she must leave both of them, and all these procedures apply to her. But Eliezer says if she went out immediately, it is not a get. If she went out afterwards, it is a get, because the first is not believed to abrogate the rights of the second. If a man wrote a get to divorce his wife and then changed his mind, Beit Shammai says he disqualifies her from marrying a Kohen. Beit Hillel says, however, says even if he gave it to her on a condition and the condition was not met, he did not qualify her from marrying a Kohen. One who divorced his wife and then she lodged with him in an inn, Beit Shammai said she does not need a second get from him. Beit Hillel, however, says she does need a second get from him. When she was divorced from Neusin, they agree that if she was divorced from Erisin, she does not need a second get from him because his heart is not close to her. If a man married a woman on the basis of a bald get, she must leave both of them, and all of them, these procedures apply to her. A bald get may be completed.
That's
that was
three.
it. That was it.
Yeah. Okay, Sota Zion base.
And these must be paid, and these must be said in the holy tongue. The recitation of the passage of the first fruits, Kalitza, the blessings and curses, the blessings of the Kohanim, the blessings of the Kohen Gadol, the biblical passage read by the king, the biblical passage of the decapitated calf, and the address of the Kohen anointed for battle at the time he speaks to the people. From where is it derived that the recitation of the passage of the first fruits must be in Hebrew? With respect to the passage of the first fruits, it is stated, then you shall speak up and say before Hashem your God. And over there it states, and the Levites shall speak up and say, just as the speaking up stated over there means in the holy tongue, here too it means in the holy tongue. And from where is it derived that Kalitza must be in Hebrew? With respect to Kalitza, it is stated, and she shall speak up and say, and over there it states, and the Levium shall speak up and say, just as the speaking up over there means the holy tongue, here too it means the holy tongue. If Yehuda says, and they shall speak up and say, Yehuda says, and she shall speak up and say so, this implies that she must say it in the exact language.
Okay. Kesubos Daled.
If a maiden was seduced, the indemnities for her disgrace and the impairment as well as her fine belong to her father, as well as the indemnity for pain in the case of a violated maiden. If she went to trial before the father died, they belong to the father. If the father died, they belong to the brothers. If the father died before she went to trial, they belong to her. If she went to trial before she matured, they belong to her father. If the father died, they belong to the brothers. If she matured before she went to trial, they belong to her. But Shimon says if she did not collect the payments before the father died, they belong to her. Her handiwork and everything she found, although she did not yet collect it, and if her father died, they belong to the brothers. If one gave his daughter in Erison and the groom divorced her, and again he gave her in Erison and she was widowed, the ketubah belongs to him. If he gave her in marriage and her husband divorced her, and again he gave her in marriage and she was widowed, her ketubah belongs to her. Rabbi Yehuda says the first one belongs to the father, and they said to him, once he gives her in marriage, her father has no authority over her. A female proselyte whose daughter was converted with her and subsequently committed adultery, the latter is liable to strangling. Neither the requirement to take her to the door to the father's house applies to her, nor to the 100 selah. Even if her conception had not been in holiness and her birth had been in holiness, she is liable to stoning. Neither the requirement to take her to the door of the father's house applies to her, nor the 100 selah. If both her conception and her birth were in holiness, she is like a daughter of Israel in all respects. If she has a father, but she has no door of the father's house, or if she has a door to the father's house, but has no father, she is nevertheless liable to stoning, and the door of her father's house was intended only as a precept.
Okay. Right. Shabbos. Tough base, hey.
Okay. One who bathes in the water of a cave or in the water of Tiberias and dried himself with even 10 towels may not carry them in his hand, but 10 people may dry themselves with one towel, their faces, their hands, and their feet, and they may carry it in their hands. We may anoint and massage the stomach, but we may neither knead nor scrape the skin. We may not go down to the dama, and nor take an emetic, nor straighten out an infant's limbs or set a fracture. If one's hand or foot became dislocated, he may not massage them with cold water, but he may bathe them according to the usual manner, and he is healed, and he is healed. A person may borrow pitchers of wine or pitchers of oil from his friend, provided he does not say to him, lend me. In the same manner, a woman may borrow loaves of bread from a friend. If he does not trust him, he may leave his cloak with him and make a reckoning with him after Shabbos. So too in Yerushalayim, when the day before Passover falls out on the Sabbath, he may leave his cloak with him, take his Pesach offering, and make a reckoning with him after Yom Tov.
Okay.
A person.
Yes, we're done. Okay. Tyros, we're going to finish today.
The section between the rounds and the section between the rounds and the sack grape skins is a public domain. The section of the vineyard that is in front of the harvests is a private domain. That which is behind the harvests is a public domain. And when is this? When the public enters from the opening and leaves from the opening. Vessels of the olive press and the wine press, such as the mess basket, when they are made of wood, he scours them, and then they are suitable to be made tahor. When they are made of jemi, he ages them for a full 12 months or scalds them in boiling water. Reb Yossi says if you put them in the rapids of a river, it suffices.
Adran Alach, Maseches Tyros. And we start with mikvahs today.
Mikvos, Aleph. There are 6 grades of mikvos, each higher than the other. The first grade is water in water holes. If a Tameh person drank from it and then a Tahor person drank from it, it becomes Tameh. If a Tameh person drank from it and then one of them drew from it into a Tahor vessel, it becomes Tameh. If a Tameh vessel person drank from it and then a loaf of truma fell into it, if he rinsed it, it becomes Tameh. If he did not rinse, it remains Tahor. If one drew from it with a Tameh vessel and then a Tahor person drank from it, he becomes Tameh. If one drank from it with a Tameh vessel and then one drew from it in a Tahor vessel, he becomes Tameh. If one drew from it with a Tameh vessel and then a loaf of truma fell into it, if he rinsed it and it became Tameh, he did not rinse it. If he did not rinse it, it remains Tahor.
Okay. And finally, menachos.
Okay, you give a go. If he said, I take upon myself to bring pieces of wood, he may not bring less than 2 logs. frankincense, he may not bring less than a komet. There are 5 gematzim. When one said, I take upon myself to bring frankincense, he may not bring less than a komet. One who donates a mikvah offering must bring within a komet of frankincense, and one who offers a komet outside the temple courtyard is liable, and the 2 spoonfuls require 2 komets. If one said, I take upon myself to bring gold, he may not bring less than a dinner of gold. Silver, he may not bring less than a dinner of silver, and copper, he may not bring less than the equivalent of a ma of silver. I specified, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring what he can say. I did not intend this. If he said, I take upon myself to bring wine, he may not bring less than 3 lugim. Oil, he may not bring less than a log. Rebbe says 3 lugim. I specified, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring like the amount brought on the day with the greatest requirement.
Okay. And that's it for today.
Wow. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you. Okay. Enjoy. Thank you. Bye.